This is Frog the Jam, one of the most infamous restricted cards in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That isn't even banned, and it does nothing. Frog the Jam was a level 2 Aqua type water attribute normal monster first printed in the TCG as part of the McDonald's set. Yes, a set of cards that was only available in packs that came with McDonald's Happy Meals, truly a scathing commentary on American consumerism. Don't worry, none of these cards were good anyway, though the legacy of this card would eventually have surpassed many of its peers. As the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Continued to grow, archetypes soon took hold as the synergistic glue that would hold decks together. During the GX era, frogs would start out with things like Death Frog, Tadpole, and D3S Frog. There was also Treeborn Frog and Beelze Frog. They had their own really weird kind of playstyle, not very good aside from Treeborn Frog.
Strike him directly, boys!
Immediately after that, frog monsters began to take shape as a uniform level 2 water attribute type monsters with Poison Draw Frog, Flip Flop Frog, and Dupe Frog. Both Flip Flop Frog and Dupe Frog actually supported frog monsters, one of them being able to search for them, and another one having an effect that's altered by the number of frogs you control. But included in the original text for both of them is that they omit Frog the Jam. The reason for this is because Frog the Jam technically isn't a frog monster. Originally in Japanese, its name is spelled differently than the later frog monsters. So while technically being a frog, it isn't the type of frog that it's supposed to be. So this isn't even really a case of translators getting things wrong, it's more that Konami didn't plan on making archetypes work the way that they do. But now that frogs were a specific type of monster, the distinction had to be made between frogs and toads. I mean, future frog support monsters with really powerful effects like Substitoad and Ronin Tonin would do the same thing, supporting frog monsters while not being frogs themselves to kind of keep them balanced. That did not work, but you get my point. But basically any card that referred to frog monsters in the TCG had to include the distinction that Frog the Jam was excluded. The funniest thing is that it's not even a really good card, as opposed to Substitoad and Ronin Tonin, which would be ever so slightly better if they were considered actual frog monsters. Nothing would really change if Frog the Jam got to hang out with the others. I mean, sure, it's the same type and attribute, so it would have a bit of synergy and would technically work as fuel for the really dangerous boys, but that's a role that could be fulfilled by any other frog. On its own, it is just a mediocre normal monster. And so in 2016, with the printing of Tournament Pack 3, Frog the Jam was given a brand new name, Slime Toad. I get that this was the right choice, but I'm absolutely devastated it didn't get to keep the Jam part of its name. Come on, Jam Toad would have been perfectly fine. But now that this card is officially no longer a frog, the others are finally free from needing to include, quote, except Frog the Jam in their effect text. Apparently on Master Duel, several cards still include this if they haven't received a physical reprint with their official errata. You know, just copy and paste the effects in without needing to make necessary changes. The funny thing is that Slime Toad is in the game with its new name, so technically there is no such card as Frog the Jam that's being referred to in these cards' effects. Trade Toad is still shackled by the sins of the past. Really, it just goes to show that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game is complicated at every turn. It isn't just needing to know the difference between when and if, it's needing to know the exact translations to make sure the funny card doesn't get categorized in the wrong archetype. In a similar vein, we had the card Vampire Koala, which was more of a koala monster and really had nothing to do with vampires. But I guess if you really wanted to, you could run Vampire Koala and Vampire Vamp in the same deck. That is until Vampire Koala also got a name update to be Vampiric Koala. What I'm saying is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still not immune to making weird mistakes like this with over 10,000 cards. But if anything, Frog the Jam, I mean Slime Toad, has provided us with a lot of memes over the years. Though I fear for the day Konami finally decides that Toad should be a brand new archetype with its own support for some reason. So anyway, let me know what you think about this miserable puddle of slime in the comments below, and if you think he's effectively paid for his sins. Anyway, this is Gatorax, and I'll catch you all later.